So a bit ago, I was requested to make the Flag of Kiribati in Desmos in one breath. Now, I don't really take requests for this type of stuff because there's going to be too many requests for me to do and I'm not doing all of these. But I am doing this one just because I think it's interesting and it has significance in the PowerPoint and LibreOffice Impress vexillology scene. So there are a few inaccuracies to it. Apparently, the waves are not accurate and the frigate bird has not been added to the top. They say that they're not raw Béziering the frigate bird, but you technically don't have to. It's an ambiguous object up to a certain point. There are still specifications. This is currently the government specifications provided for the Flag of Kiribati, and you can see there are specifications for certain parts of the bird. You don't have to draw the whole bird as is, you just need to get these particular construction points down. So I'm going to include these in construction. So I think the first thing that we should do is actually define the colors. So here specified under section 3, there are the colors provided. So as you can see, the colors are BSI 381C number 539, BSI 381C number 355, T8514J, which is just solid white, and BSI 381C number 110. So I can probably look online and find these values, so give me just one moment. Okay, I think I got the values. So the colors are RGB 169, 57, 58, RGB 237, 178, and 11. Actually, you know what I should do is I'll just start preparing these as variables. RGB 255, 255, 255, RGB 64, 74, and 114. So these are the flag colors that are specified in the documentation. Now, this doesn't look like it matches what's used on Wikipedia, but that's probably due to the fact that there isn't an exact translation from BSI to RGB, because this is technically a physical color identification rather than a digital color identification. So these are just what I grabbed from sources online. I don't know if these are the exact ones, but know that the intention is to be following these colors. We should probably do the actual frigate bird. Position is measured from the upper hoist corner, distances being fractions of the length of the flag. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to multiply by 100 for all these values, and I'm just going to enter them into Desmos. 40, -7, 36, -3, 64, -1, 68, and 61, -6. This should be actually -8 as well. Now, I'm not going to be making the flag in this position. That seems a little bit weird. I feel like it's better if we do it here. So it's positioned like this, which means I'll need to move the points over to the top left. So we'll keep that in mind. We'll have this be P, and we will subtract 50 and 25. Well, I guess it's -50 plus 25, so it should be up here instead. Those are the coordinates of the frigate bird. Now, the rising sun shall be positioned so that the center of the sun is halfway along and is positioned 26/100th of the length of the flag measured down the hoist. So that seems to imply that's a little bit past the bottom, right there. So it would be located basically here, and it has a diameter of 17/100, so that should be 8.5, and that's the position of the sun. Now, that doesn't seem like a very convenient thing when I'm going to have to draw the rays, so what I guess I could do, instead of having this flag be centered, I think we can maybe move everything up one, so 26, 26, -24, -24. That's slightly offset in one direction, but that is fine by me. And so now this should just be now centered. Now, I don't think it doesn't specify the outline. So I'm gonna just assume that we just use a black outline of any thickness of our choice. So we're just gonna do that. I don't know, a thickness of 1, maybe? I think that looks fine. Outer points of the plane and spherical triangles lie on imaginary circles whose centers are the same as the sun and whose diameters are 31/100 and 30/100 of the length of the flag, respectively. So what they are referring to by plane and spherical is how you basically lay the triangle down. So planar triangles refer to basically just the standard Cartesian triangles that we work with most of the time. However, spherical triangles are sections out of a sphere. Let's say that we have a sphere like this. The goal is to essentially put a triangle on this And as you can see, this forms what is known as a spherical triangle, where the connections are circles that are lying along the sphere itself. If you orient the camera in the right way, you can get the same arcing behavior. Now, I assume they're probably referring to orthographic projection for when they're actually referring to these spherical triangles. If I then tilt it like that, then you can see that these then form that shape of the spherical triangle. Now that seems a little bit overcomplicated. All you really need to say is that the, at least if you're working in orthographic view, that the sides of these rays here should be either circular arcs or ellipses. So let's first actually do the planar ones. So the planar ones have a diameter of 31/100, probably referring to this outer edge here. It would be, so instead of 31, it would be 15.5, and so that would be the outer radius of those rays, and then the inner one, which is 30, should have a radius of 15, and so those are our dimensions, like that. From that, I guess, based on this image and also based on the graphic that they provide, it looks like the planar triangles end up meeting basically on the surface of this inner diameter. There isn't a specification for how many rays you need. There are a bunch of constructions which interpret it using a 17 gon, because it basically satisfies this description right here. This doesn't seem to be much of an issue. I can just do that pretty easily. What we need to do is start with 15.5, cosine t sine t, or actually let's do sine t cosine t, because we want to actually start this from the top right here, with t is equal to 1 through 17 over 17 tau. And that should space out the vertices around like that. We should probably instead use 0 to 34 like this, because then what we can do is basically alternate between this outer radius and this inner radius. Guess there's a couple of ways to do this. You could maybe write a conditional to alternate back and forth between the two, but I think it would probably be easier if I just use something like an alternating series of 1 and -1, using that, times -1 to the 0 to 34. That basically does it, and that should now be the sun for that done now. And now we need to do the spherical triangles. So the spherical triangles are going to be ellipses, essentially. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to use circular arcs instead. Now, this isn't necessarily accurate, but I think if you use a configuration like this, for example, then you could use a circle and an ellipse. This won't match the flag particularly well, because it seems to imply that it's actually cutting it off a little bit earlier, but it only just specifies that it is a spherical triangle. So I think I'm going to use this approach. So that shape can probably be done by first doing a circle like this. Perhaps we'll actually do the same sine cosine thing, so it starts from the top here. If I extend this perhaps in a negative direction, what I could maybe do is have this be mirrored and then have it so that the radius for this changes. So either it goes from 1 to 0 in this case, for example, but maybe I could use a different one, like for example like that. 0.7 and 0.3 would get you something like that, which actually doesn't look that bad. And if we actually reference the original flag, that's also honestly not far off, because it is a bit thicker than what it looks like here in the Wikipedia version. So I might consider this. Also, that bird is so happy. That bird looks really happy, actually, compared to this one. Now, I guess it also doesn't really specify where this tip is. As long as it's somewhere along this section here, it should be fine. So I'm going to start off with the negative version of this. We do need it to be oriented like this, apparently. And then I guess we'll just pick a point on the curve, the 45-degree maybe. Where is this located? 0, 10. -10, that should center it here. Then we add 1, 1, 10 square root of 2, 5 square root of 2? No, we need the outer radius, which is 15, and that should be then 7.5. Yeah, that will then land us on that point. Now, that doesn't look great because it's now overlapping that triangle, but maybe if I use the other side instead, so like this, and put there, that seems to be much better. If I fill this, it looks to cover the space correctly, so that is pretty good. So now I need to just do the rotation functions. RPW is equal to P cosine W plus negative P dot Y, P dot X sine W. I can take this and apply it 17 times around using a fill like this and moving that up there. This looks like it should be acceptable enough. So that's the sun done, and actually while I'm at it, give this an outline. So the sea, I did read this ahead of time. The dimensions for this is a little bit weird. The central trough of this flag right here is halfway along the fly and 27/100 down the hoist. So this is basically down here. The adjacent crest to the left is 39 along the fly, 25 down the hoist. So this means that the distance here is 11. And that's a bit weird because let's use negative cosine of x like this. From what I can tell, this needs to be a crest of here to here. So it basically wants something like this for it, but it also then wants, alongside this is also 11 distance. But as I mentioned, if it's 11 distance, that means that the wavelength of this must be 22. But the rest of the wavelengths adjacent are 2100, which means that at this position here, let's say minus 11 here, it then also wants us to do 10, I guess. Because then this 10 here would then result in plus 20 and then another plus 20, which is also doubly weird because the fact that the flag ends here, 1 unit off from the crest of the next flag, and it kind of looks like it's meant to stop at the crest, but if you actually check the documentation, the example, they have accentuated it showing that this is meant to be cut off, which is interesting. So I guess I just need to come up with a function which does the first one of these two for the first section of this wave, and then going onwards use this one. And I think the way to do that is by because it seems to be pretty much the same with the way that I designed this. I could do 10, 0 to the 0 to the x gets you this, and if I subtract 11 from that, then this is going to be 0, this is 1. So we could maybe do 11 minus 0 to 0 to the x minus 11, and that seems to have done it. So this one is necessary for the first part. That's going to be 0 to 11, and then this part here is 11 to 50. Does that match? Does look like it matches, so that's good. And then all we have to do is just do the same thing on the other side, so that can be done via mirroring, taking the absolute value, so then all negative values get mapped to positive values, and so you just get this mirrored graph. So I think that should be all there is for that. We can then paste that there. The more equations I see here, the more daunting this is feeling, but I think I can still do this. I think I can still do this. So y is going to be less than this, and come to think of it, I do have to cut it off as well. So maybe instead of using a polygon here, we can do x comma y minus 1 over 50 and 25. Dot max is less than 1. Yeah, okay. This is an equation for a square, but with the x and y scaled and the y translated up by 1. So that should be pretty simple. We can just use that, fill that, and then by taking advantage of this, we then just add the restriction like that. And that should be fine. That should be easy. So that's the first one. The second one is 4 below. So I guess what we could then do is minus 0 through, how many sections are there? Let's take a look. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we need 5 of these at the scaling of 4. And I guess I also now need another color here, so this is going to be equal to C, D, C, whatever, it's fine. And that should then be the flag, I think. Just to double check, it is how tall? 25 and 27, so it's too tall. And I believe that's actually just the default cosine. Hi, Editor Arglin here. I just want to make it clear that there is no specification for what type of wave is used here. I just went with a cosine because that's the easiest thing to do, but because PowerPoint doesn't have a sine wave, we don't use that. We just use basically circular arcs or straight lines to satisfy the requirement. LibreOffice Impress does have a sine wave, which is why we actually use it for that, but it is not required. That's all I really want to say. At least because it's, at least at the scaling that I'm working with, because it goes from +1 to -1. Yeah, I think this is it. All right, in that case, I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick, and I'm gonna try this. Right, so it's been a few hours since then because I've decided to have dinner after my bathroom break because it is already quite late in the evening. I think I'm pretty much ready. There is one change that I have made. Instead of using a point list, I've decided to use a table to enter my values for the polygons for the frigate bird. But other than that, I think I am pretty much ready to go. So, Kiribati in one breath. Let's do this. Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm dizzy. Oh god. Thought I did it. Well, almost. I forgot to make that a 1, but honestly, for what it's worth, that's not specified, so I'm okay. Oh, wow, I'm sweating, really dizzy. Well, that's Kiribati in one breath. Even with preparation, that was hard. What I'm very glad about is the fact that I put the table at the top, because otherwise you would actually see the points. I put the tables above, and so I didn't have to actually turn it off. I could just put this on top and it worked. You could hear me cracking a bit, trying to exhale, but critically, I did not inhale, so it is still one breath. Anyways, that's it. I'm not going to be doing any more breath challenges until I find a way to do Croatia, in which that will be my final attempt. in this pretty weird series, come to think of it.